It's going to get, we're going to show you some pictures, it's going to be considerably worse. There's one particular individual who watches TV and sees a character he likes and tries to model his appearance based on that. Not necessarily another person, but another character. Anybody watches Marvel? That's him in the top right. Or top left if we're looking at this. This man has had his nose, partly his nose removed. He's had his skin permanently tattooed. He's permanently tattooed his eyes. He's relocated some bones in his body to his forehead in order to imitate Red Skull from Captain America, who is the comparative face to the left. He would argue he's taken his picture taking has considerably increased since he looks like that now, and he goes on tours showing people. If people are interested in this, surely this must be an okay thing.
You see, sometimes as well, it's a tricky subject because at the end of the day, and this is where your comment really comes into play as well. If you're being given a platform to make something seem all right and it can harm other people who's mentally not strong enough to make certain decisions for themselves, then that's wrong. If you're doing something personally to yourself and it's no harm to anybody else, then why could that be wrong? And why should that be deemed wrong? It is your personal self. That is your own free will. Yes, it's against what every other person may feel, but it's yourself. Yeah? But if you're harming other people with what you're doing, then I would deem that wrong. But if you're doing something personal to yourself, can that be wrong?
I definitely think it can be wrong. I think access to these things is, something that's a huge problem. This person's actually, he's going and performing to mass people. You said that he's doing shows and stuff. That's really worrying because in doing that, he is now deemed an influencer. And if he's been able to be influenced by a movie, then people who are seeing him as an actual human being, just a normal person who's taking pictures, going on tour, and is being celebrated for what he's done, then obviously, what fans generally do is they copy behavior and appearances of the people that they follow. And it's extremely worrying to think that people would go and actually do this. There are people that have, problems with their skin and their bone structure and stuff who just want to, kind of blend in. And this guy's gone to extreme lengths to reconstruct his face.
So I agree with that, but still, he's deemed it from something he's seen, which is makeup and a character. So then do we now then say we can't put characters and makeup people on because people may be mentally influenced to go and do this to themselves? At what point then do we stop?
I think that it definitely should. There should be some limitations on, what people should be able to do. Obviously, he has some mental issues. This is not something that you wake up. The average person doesn't wake up and think, okay, I'm going to just take a few bones out of my body and place them in my forehead to look like a character. There's something obviously going on there, and it is extreme. Access to these things are really rife. I walked into a hair shop, as you discussed earlier. I have a birthmark all down the side of my face and down my neck. And one of the guys behind the counter actually said, "Oh, I can help you." I said, "What with?" This is a real standard part of my face. I have no problems with it. He said, "Well, you need to get rid of that." He said, "We have something for you." And he pulled out, as you discussed, one of those mad tubs and said, "Okay, you can use this. It has no labeling. There is access to it. The same way there is access to a surgeon who's willing to do this." Should there not be some limitations that say, okay, well, there's not enough money in the world to make me disfigure someone's body for vanity purposes?
I just think it's really, I don't know really. It's a bit out there, isn't it? I think it's probably quite bad that someone would actually perform that. The person who got that done is probably a little bit unwell. And I think in an ideal world, people wouldn't want to drastically change their physical appearances based on like popular culture or images they see. But it's a bit...
I agree with everything that's been said kind of on my right about how being in a position of influence. And I think if you're in a position of influence or you go and I think what he's been doing is maybe because there's maybe a financial motivation, seeking an audience to earn money off of this, he's become more influential, then I think you have more of a moral responsibility not to negatively influence people in this way. Okay, if you're in a position for another reason, because you're a famous actress or you're a famous musician, and then you do things, you have to accept that you've been put in a position of responsibility as a role model. But on the flip side, if I, walking around, okay, yes, maybe some people admire me, who knows, decide that I'm going to pierce all parts of my face. Some people consider loads of piercings. I think my very Nigerian dad told me that I'd mutilated my ear because I have like 6 piercings in it. If loads of people go and do that and that's harmful and loads of people's ears stop dropping off, I don't think that's necessarily my fault. But once you put yourself out there as a role model, or that's been given to you, you don't necessarily have control over it, I think it comes with huge responsibility. And at that point, you need to acknowledge that you might have huge repercussions for people that are more susceptible and than yourself.
It's just to quickly put it. This is by no means an abnormality. For instance, anomaly. I don't know how to say that word, but it's not as strange as you think it is. The woman just below that picture is actually one of the people taken picture of in something called the Venezuelan Tattoo Festival. So there is global sort of cultural events in reference to this type of, well, activity, shall we say. But to go off on a tangent, the woman you see, the Asian woman just next to the gentleman that has disfigured his face to look like Red Skull. She is from a report by the Daily Mail after she was sued for being ugly. She received some cosmetic surgery. That's her before and after photos. And basically, the man she then married and had a child with wondered why his child had come out.
That story was actually a lie, by the way.
As reported by the Daily Mail.
It's been proven to be a lie, that story, actually. And she's actually tried to sue lots of outlets, news outlets, for that lie. She did a whole photo shoot as a family, and then those wedding photos got used to make this fake story, which in this world of globalized social media went viral and actually ruined her modeling career, which is a whole nother topic, but that story is a lie. Well,
it actually went further than that, because that same story got inspired, and actually people from a university, I can't remember which one, actually filed to sue another student's parents because he was clapped. That was their definition. Clapped.
Clapped.
Means ugly.
Did you say that?
Yeah. That was their words, clapped. So, poof, boy.
But what I do want to pick up on is the fine line that we all have. You mentioned earlier that in terms of when you are a person of influence and you have a responsibility, I guess it's especially in this instant access to people era that we have. It's a fine line, because you don't really know how inspiring you are to other people and how much of an influencer you really are. Like, how do you measure that? Oh, obviously, bar followers and YouTube views, or et cetera, how many people? Because some people have like a following of 1 million and can only influence one person, and some people, might know 5 people, but they're the most influential person that they know. So, how do we know when we're being influencers or not?
I just want to add to that, because I live my life, and it's my life. And if I choose to do something, because I'm not for cosmetic surgery or anything like that, but at the end of the day, it is still my life. Why do I have to live my life in relation to who I influence or anything like that, or whatever else? At what point am I allowed to live my life to do what I want for myself without being judged in?
I think if you're going to start saying that, you can essentially say that about, any issue. You could say, why do I have to play by society's rules for anything? It's my life. I just want to do exactly what I want to do, who, you know, and essentially that comes down to what level of moral responsibility you think you kind of owe to the society that you live in, and if you feel that you have that those repercussions are far-reaching, and if they have any effects for you.
I hear what you're saying in that terms, but at the end of the day, what has society got to do with me as an individual? We're born individuals, we're not born societies. If I'm in one society's claims to life is different to another society's. One society's beauty is different to another society's beauty. So, do I adhere to the society or do I adhere to myself? At what point of what I'm trying to understand here is, and as I said, I'm going to sit on the fence on this now because I see that the panel, we all seem to be really one way. So just to bring a little bit of challenge to this conversation, at what point can I say, this is me? Forget society, because who says society is right? At the end of the day, society is the one that deemed blue is for boy and pink is for girls. Nature didn't decide that. It's society that decided men wear trousers, women wear skirts. Nature didn't decide that. It's society that decided that we should live like this and not like that. At what point can I say, this is my life and I'll do it my way? Or do I have to fit into a form of society that I don't adhere to or agree with?
Tough.
I just think that basically it comes down to basic stuff. Like, we're talking about people who are actually putting themselves at risk to look a certain way. Like, you're putting yourself at risk. You could risk death, okay? And then obviously, in you doing so, you... Okay, yeah, but then... Okay, well then you're increasing your risk. Knowingly increasing your risk. Not if you cross carefully. Cross carefully. Please cross carefully. I can teach you, look left, look right.
It's deemed that will happen to you regardless. Yeah? So at what point can I say, this is my life, and I wish to live my life short, fulfilled in what I want to do, how I want to do it, and go?
Okay, but then there's also the risk that you might change your mind. So they say, for example, a suicide case where they decide to jump over the bridge. They say that most people change their mind.
Yeah,
they change their mind when they've already jumped. But, well, no, but it's sometimes it's like you see people. I've got tattoos and I regret them. I wish I didn't have them. And I feel like the restrictions and the access to these things were too readily available. They were too readily available. I was 17 years old. I went and pierced my eyebrow and got two tattoos. And yeah, I was able to just do that. I was able to walk in with Lena and just get a tattoo and some piercings, which I now have a scar under my eye and 2 tattoos that I don't really want and are very painful to remove, I hear.
Yeah, I think that's also with a lot of cosmetic surgery. There are cases of people trying to like undo the cosmetic surgery they had done later down the line. So like, yeah, I agree with you. And I also think that it's a bit out there to try and claim that society doesn't have any impact on the way you live your life. I think on a really deep level, society and social norms impact us all like to a great degree.
No, they do,
level.
but that's the point. Why should it? Why should we have to be...
I don't think it should, but I'm just saying it's difficult to avoid it.
It should, and that's what I'm getting to. So if you don't agree, if we agree that society shouldn't have to, then I should be able to then do what I wish with the way I look.
Can I just say, I think, to an extent, I think the ultimate beauty is if you feel at peace with yourself and you feel comfortable, whether that be because you have turned yourself green or whether that be that you're happy the way that you were born. I think, unfortunately, as we've picked up on, people have regrets, and often there are underlying issues that actually people aren't happy with the end result. And the other thing is if you're going to say, I'm going to do all of these things outside of society, I'm going to live my life as I want to be, that's fine. But often these people require some help from society, okay? So she did not get that colour on her own, okay? You're going to come to a surgeon and ask them to make your double A's some F's, and there's a whole team of people helping them. If you're going to go mutilate yourself in the forest, on the peripheries of society, and just be and chill, then, you know, probably you're outside of society, you're not influencing anybody, you're not helping anybody, you know, you can scream and nobody's going to hear you, so that's fine. But most of the time within beauty, people require a whole structure of help, and it feeds into the image they create, feeds back into that system. Very few of these people are projecting their ideas of beauty into a vacuum.
So, but it's the society that's made this, because the people are the society. And it's the society that's caused this problem, not the individuals. Yeah? That's where we started, and there's been times throughout history documented many years of, from ancient to now, of society manipulating human images, sloping foreheads, elongating feet or hands or different things. This isn't a new thing. This is something society has done to people. So this is now the reverse of it. This isn't individuals now doing this. Society's put this pressure on the individuals to do this to themselves.
Just to quickly put this in before we go off again, I'd like to ask you, Amit, because this is probably more in your neck of the woods. If that's a bad metaphor, I apologize. But in terms of weight and fitness, you've also seen people gone to great lengths to change their bodies in purpose to look more, I'd say, more ideals of beauty. For instance, as you can see on the screen, or in this case, you can see here.
Yeah.
The dude on the left has had massive weight reduction, just been basically for a period of months now, trying to fix his diet in order so he can become lighter, yes, but in terms of weight, not skin tone. And because of which he has now a lot of extra skin. The fellow to the right of him, or to the left if you're watching from the audience, is basically a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
He's gone to the great lengths to make himself look big. Is any of these okay?
I think a lot of that, again, is to do with like sort of societal norms. I think whenever it was that Arnold Schwarzenegger won Mr. Olympia, it sort of really popularized bodybuilding and that sort of masculine bodybuilding culture. And ever since then, that has become one sort of standardized beauty ideal for men, to have like a massive chest, massive arms. And obviously, as Annabelle touched on earlier, that leads to things like body dysmorphia, which is quite a big problem within like...
Is this body dysmorphia?
I would say quite likely.
Even this one here?
I think that's someone who probably was overweight and felt insecure about society's beauty norms, which would be to be sort of either athletic or skinny. So yeah, maybe, I don't know, is that a type of body dysmorphia? Annabelle? No.
Medicine would categorize body extremes such as bodybuilding as body dysmorphia, because often people are taking things like steroids, which are going to have huge repercussions for their fertility and other things to achieve this aesthetic. And once you are putting your personal appearance ahead of health risks and potentially are happy to embrace death for a certain aesthetic, you have body dysmorphia.
I saw a guy whose bicep exploded because it was massive and he was injecting steroids into it and his bicep exploded. So yeah, it's not recommended, I don't think.
It's like that woman
That's really stressed me out.
put cement in her bottom and she died. Did everyone hear that story? She flew from the UK all the way to America, went to some, obviously, dud surgeon who injected, she thought she was getting silicone implants, and it was just cement, and she died. And yeah, we laugh, but...
She died of the pain. She didn't even die from the actual injection. She died from the pain. It was so painful that that's what actually killed her. We know Claudia. That's why.
And it's all right to say, you know, I know obviously people being devil's advocate, some people might believe it, that we do things, and if I want to have an extreme version of self, that should be okay. But I think if your life is now at stake and you're happy to pay the price of your life, then I think we have to acknowledge that there is something wrong there, surely.
I think it's definitely about thinking about the community of self. There is definitely a community within, as well as being a confidence coach. I also run a modelling agency, and we specialise in curve models. A lot of people who would see our models on the internet or would think, okay, well, these girls are perfect. That, you know, people, you know, I would like to be like her. And then when they stand next to a size 0 model, they almost feel like sometimes, you know, this is how we started confidence coaching. They started to shrink themselves because they then felt like they were inferior. And it just shows that the community that's within sometimes tells you that in different settings that you are more fitting than others. So in standalone, you might feel like, okay, well, I'm in the mirror, I feel like I look perfect. And then you go out with your friends and you think, actually, this outfit's really crap. I don't know why I wore it. Or I don't know why I did my hair like this. I should have tried something else. Look, all of my friends have this, or the people that I'm around have this. And I think that those are conversations that we have with ourselves. And there's also a story that we tell ourselves about, you know, how we feel and how we should feel in comparison to other people, which is a big issue.
Act-Ive Media Group, exposing your genius.